Welcome back to Sweet Science Boxing and MMA here in Hawthorne, California. As always, I'm Chris, your boxing enthusiast. Coach is not with us today. Coach is actually going to be operating as chief second for George Navarro on the 360 Tom Loeffler card that's at Hollywood Avalon this afternoon, so you guys should be able to check that out on YouTube or Facebook. But with me is freelance photographer Luis Mejia of Luis Mejia Photography. What's up, man?
What's up, man? How's it going? Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you came down.
Thank you for having me.
So if you guys don't follow Luis El Mejia Photography on Instagram, right? At El Mejia Photography, and you have some beautiful fight photographs, man.
Thank you.
You got a lot of stuff going on. And so we were just talking a little while before this, and you explained to me that you actually haven't been doing this very long, the photography thing.
It's been, I would say, timeline-wise, it's been about a year and a half. But actually shooting ringside, it hasn't always. I haven't done it for the full year and a half.
Okay. What did you start out doing?
I started doing like the press conferences, the weigh-ins, just media workouts, things like that. And I was put after into like the Belascos.
Okay. Yeah, the Belasco theater shows, like the Golden Boy shows that we have here locally. Okay.
Right. And I would have to shoot from the balcony. So that's kind of where it started. And I pretty much worked my way from there.
Can you get good shots from the balcony? Like,
Yeah, actually, some of my good shots are from the balcony because you kind of get the whole ring, and then you get the fighter, and then you can crop.
Okay.
So you can get basically, the way I shoot is sometimes I'll shoot wide, and I'll be able to get 3 shots in one. So I'll get the wide shot with the ring, and then I'll get the, say, like a shot with the ref, and then the guy hitting him, or, I'll crop it accordingly.
Okay, so it's one shot that you take, but then you can crop it to get specific areas and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you've only been doing I should clarify, the ring photography for like a year and a half, but I imagine you had some background in photography before that, or did you really just start with taking photos of boxers?
Well, the way it started for me was I had always had a passion for shooting, just in general.
With a camera? No.
Yeah. Right. Well, that's a little. Yeah, that's something else a little private.
Something else, yeah.
Just kidding.
You had a rough childhood.
Yes, definitely. No, but the way it started out was I would shoot landscapes because the work that I would do, I would always be out and about. Doing cell sites for like AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon.
Okay.
So sometimes I'll be on top of a mountain, you know what I mean? And I'll be there sunrise, sundown, So it allowed me to get different shots.
Okay.
The only problem is that I was inexperienced. I didn't know how to get those magical shots. Excuse me. It wasn't until my nephew, he brought over a DSLR camera, which was a Pentax.
Okay.
And he took a photo of my daughter, and I fell in love with it. And from that point on, I started asking questions. Hey, how did you get that shot? What did you use? How did you get this shot? And he explained to me that it was a 50 mil lens, 1.4 on a DSLR. And the next day I ordered one.
You ordered all that stuff?
Yeah, I ordered it, and I started taking pictures of everything. Leaves, trash, bottles. I mean, you name it. I was taking pictures of everything. And the way I am is I always put the wow factor in it, or at least I try. I like if I get a pic, if I see a bottle on the floor, I'm gonna make you when you see it, you're gonna be like, oh shit, that's a bottle of water.
That's a dope bottle right there.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. And
damn, that bottle looks fly.
Right? And that's the way I shoot because to me it's more of a passion than just to shoot. There's a lot of photographers that they're great at what they do. They're in a sense commercial because they pump out whatever's requested or kind of what's asked of them. But me, I do both.
I got you. So you shoot commercially, but you also just do subjects that you're passionate about and stuff like that.
Yeah, I do. Like, say for example, if I'm shooting a boxer, I can get the commercial shot, which is just a generic kind of what I'm gonna get him swinging at the bag. But then there's my side where I'll take those same photos, I'll edit them to my liking, and I'll add a little bit of, I guess you could say, pop to the photo. and
Okay.
that's what people, I guess, know me for, because when I get this from other photographers, they're like, dude, like that shot looks awesome, dude. Like, how did you get that shot? And I'm like, oh, I just use this. And they're like, what the heck? Like, dang, and it's funny because, a lot of people for a long time, they think that it's the camera and the lens.
Yeah.
It's
But it
not
can't
the
be.
case.
You know how I know that's not the case? Because I have a camera and a lens, and there's not a single picture I've ever taken that looks anything like a picture you've taken. I've gone through your Instagram. It's like, what the hell, man? Like, I seriously, yeah. I understand that there's definitely some craft or some eye, or there's something more than just the equipment that you're using. But
Right.
so let's talk about the transition. So you went from somehow you got into combat sports. So you were taking some photographs, you were passionate about it, making the bottles look dope and all that stuff. But then you got into taking pictures of fighters, boxers specifically. So where did that come in? How did you get your first gig, or what made you decide to do that?
Well, that happened. I remember the exact day it happened, not number wise, but I remember I was out on a site. I would say about 3-4 hours away from here,
Okay.
and I saw a post up asking for videographers, photographers, and people in media and
Like on Facebook?
Yeah, no, Instagram.
On Instagram, okay.
Excuse me, for combat sports.
Okay.
So what I did was, I humbly said, please take a look at my page. If it's something that interests you, I'm more than willing to learn. I've never done the boxing, but I'm more than willing to learn because photography is my passion.
Yeah.
And I always try to bring something different when it comes to photography. And I actually got a response pretty fast.
Okay. So they checked out your page and they said, yeah, why don't you come check out one of these gigs? Or
They told me to get in contact with Danny Saldivar.
okay.
And that's pretty much history from there, because he saw my work and he saw, I guess, the passion behind the work that I was doing. And he's like, you're perfect. He's like, yeah, we'll bring you aboard, and then we'll send you out. And it's even funnier because my first gig was Broner Mikey Garcia.
That was your first
That was
gig?
my first
Broner
gig
Mikey Garcia?
by myself. Yeah. I was like, man, I was so nervous because I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anything about it. They just said, go to the Conga room for Mikey Garcia versus Adrian Broner. Take photos, and if you can take video, take video.
And that was your first gig. That was like a press conference.
It was a press conference,
Yeah,
yes.
press conference of those dudes.
Mhm.
Okay.
And it was cool because I actually got, that day, Scott Hirano took a picture of me
Oh, okay.
interviewing Mikey Garcia. And
So you interviewed him. You actually,
I actually
like
interviewed.
You got a video of you interviewing
Yeah,
him?
I was interviewing him. I was asking him questions about Broner, what are the keys to victory, things like that. Just things that, because when I watch boxing, I kind of see. I mean, I'm not completely ignorant to boxing, and I
Yeah.
wasn't ignorant to boxing, so I did have at least the basics,
That was going to be my next question. So you knew who they were, at least, for
Right,
instance.
right,
Yeah,
yeah.
and you're familiar with some of their competitions, like you've seen them fight before and things
Oh yeah,
like that?
of course.
Okay.
I used to follow boxing since I was a kid,
Okay.
but I was never on the, I guess the knowledge bank side of it, where I would retain
Okay.
all the information, fighters, weights, belts, all that. I never really retained it because it was more of a,
Nobody can keep track of the belts anyway.
right. Yeah, and it was
So you're not alone in that.
right. But it was more of like, I love watching the boxing. And my last fight that I remember that I really, really enjoyed was Costazu versus Hatton.
I already knew where you were going with that as soon as
Yeah.
you said Costazu.
Yeah, because that was a fight that I was like, man, that really stuck in my head. You know what I mean? And I had always loved boxing. I guess I never really paid attention to it, like, because you know how you do things second nature.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
And boxing was one of them. Like, I would always watch the Chavez fights, the Trinidads, the De La Hoyas, the Mayorgas. Like I always watched boxing. Especially because my dad loved boxing, and
Yeah.
but I was just never on the, what weight is this? Welterweight, middleweight. I didn't really pay attention to those because it was more of I want to see them fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I got you.
But it helped me out now because, I still recognize a lot of the fighters, and now they recognize me. So
Yeah, they recognize you too.
right.
A couple of people jumping on for you already. So Angel said, "What's up?" He also wants to know if you're going to sing. So I won't ask you. I won't ask you to do it, but if you want to, that would be a first too. And King Apache jumped on and said, "That's my boy. What's going on, guys?
What's up, man?
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for following."
So, do you remember what your first ring experience was? So you were talking about you did Mikey, you did Broner. That was the press conference. You got to do the interview. What about when you're on the ring or in the ring taking those photographs? Do you know what it was?
My first one.
Or do you have is there a memorable experience where you're like where you were taking pictures of fighters ringside and you're like, whoa, is there one that makes you say, you look like you were in the ring with Uzcategui and Caleb Plant, by the way?
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's and the funny thing is that my camera allows me to do that. Because if you see all the photographers, they're using the general DSLRs, and to have a DSLR, you have to put your eye on the eyepiece to be able to see what you're shooting.
Let me share. Can I share this photo with the guys? So you went in a very short period of time from shooting boxing to these sets of photos were on ESPN.com, right?
Right.
Yeah. Let me share this with you guys. So if you guys are checking it out.
Those are my selections. The one from ESPN was on a different post.
Okay, the one from ESPN, but it was from this fight, and it was on ESPN.com. So just a few weeks ago on their homepage, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So these are bad, but you look like you're wherever the referee was standing or something like that.
I almost hit him because he kept getting in my way.
The referee kept blocking your shots.
Yeah, he kept blocking my shots. So I was like, get out of my way,
So when you first get on the apron, so for a period, you have until very recently been the new guy, essentially.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because you just started 70. So last year, you're getting on the apron, you're the new guy. Are other people welcoming in that respect? Like, do people how do they react to seeing the new guy?
Well, I've heard a couple things from certain people, like jokingly. They're like, "Well, I don't think anybody's gonna tell you anything because of the way you look."
They don't want to help you out.
Well, no, basically because of my size, because I'm not the typical photographer. I've even got that where people say, "You're a photographer?"
You look more like security or something.
Right. and it's funny because I shoot for Panchito Cedevaca.
Yeah.
And we mess around all the time. He's like, "Oh, this is my bodyguard," but he's my photographer too.
Yeah, exactly.
and it's funny because it works for me because honestly, I mean, certain people don't get in my way.
Yeah.
And
you're like you get to command the apron more or less.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm a real friendly person. I get along with everybody that gets along with me, and I thank God to this day I haven't had any issues.
Yeah. For those of you who are listening to this on audio, you can check out Luis Mejia Photography on Instagram. And just to approximate your size, I mean, I saw you on Instagram cleaning 700 something pounds, or what was that? What was that post the other day?
Yeah, it was called a rack pull.
A rack pull.
And
I don't do those, so I'm not sure what the exercise was, but it was a
765.
a ton of weight. Let's just put it that way. It was an absurd amount of weight for an individual to lift.
Yeah, it was 765 pounds.
So that camera's like nothing. You could hold that all day long.
Yeah, but the funny thing is that it tires me out more than that weight.
Oh really?
Yeah,
the camera does?
Because how you hold it in an awkward position. You're shooting. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, you always see dudes you could see you guys have to have some kind of reaction time too. I noticed that when you watch on TV, you get the photographers, they're right there on the apron, and sometimes the fighters circle around right there, and you guys have to pull out, step back in, pull out, step back in, because you have to watch out not to tangle their feet and do all kinds of stuff.
Well, not only that, but you, I've been kicked. I've been kicked in the hands,
by fighters in the ring that were active?
Because if you notice where the ropes are, when they lean back on the ropes, it stops them there, but their feet continue.
Okay.
If you see the bottom of the ropes, their feet continue out. So I know like Cynthia, she's gotten her camera. She's been hit.
Oh really? Like just hit in the camera?
Yeah, she's been even hit in the lip. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you have to be quick.
And you got kicked in the hands a few times.
Yeah, I've got kicked in the hands. My camera's been kicked. My lens hood, it's flew. But
So you're a freelance photographer, right?
Mm-hmm.
You shoot, and so how did these photos that we were just looking at there, how did those make their way to ESPN as an example?
Well, I got contacted by Lisa Milner,
Okay.
and she asked me if I could, if I was able to cover the Leo Santa Cruz press conference,
Okay.
and I told her, of course.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, of course I would. And the day I was there, you know, because it's always, like I said, it's always been my passion. I've always wanted to be that, like the promoter photographer, or to do that on a regular basis, basically.
Yeah.
So I threw it out there. I said, you know, do you have any other venues you would want me to shoot? And she said, you know what? Yeah, give me a second. Let me find out. So she went, and I guess she talked to Brittany, and Brittany said, yeah, we could use him for Uzcategui. So
Yeah.
I did the weigh-ins, I did the press conference, and I did the fight.
Oh, cool.
And when after every fight, I would send her the photos. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's the fastest anybody's has done them, because usually people take time to go and edit,
Go process those photos, and then
or they give them to somebody, or they do something. And me, as I'm shooting, once that fight is over, I already picked out the ones that I like, and I'll send them to my phone, maybe throw an edit, maybe not, and I'll just send them right to a Dropbox, and she has them instantly.
it's amazing how fast you guys do it. By the way, Cynthia jumped on and said she did get a busted lip. So Cynthia Saldana, who's also a ring photographer, said she got a busted lip from doing it. But it is amazing how quickly you guys know how to do this stuff. Like I for instance, sometimes you guys will see I edit short snippets of the show and put them on. I would love to do that a lot more. You know, just little 10-minute segments here and there as we talk about a specific topic. But it takes me a long time because I don't know what I'm doing. I think I mentioned before this that this is all kind of trial and error and YouTube learning and things like that. I don't really have a background in doing broadcasting or editing or audio of any kind. And I saw someone video something the other day and on their phone edit it, clean it up, do all this stuff, and they posted it to YouTube. And it probably took them like 2.5 minutes to do it. And I was like, what? It takes me like 15 minutes just to get it to upload. I don't know. Maybe it's my internet connection. I don't know what's going on. But you guys got the tools going on. Is it easier now? Because you can do all that stuff from your phone.
Oh, it's extremely easy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
before, because see, like when I first started, I was shooting with the Pentax. And
yeah, you mentioned that was like the first one that you fell in love with.
Yeah,
right?
and that thing takes some amazing pictures. Just because, I mean, I shoot with the Sony now, but the Pentax has a Sony sensor. So that's why I went with the Pentax, because I can literally dump it in the water and nothing will happen to it.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was one of the biggest reasons, because I can take it anywhere in the rain, snow, dirt, mud, you name it. And for the price, it was a fraction. What I paid for my two other cameras, I paid for my Sony.
Oh, okay.
So, you know
So
what I mean?
just-
You could just imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. You've got a lot of really cool stuff that you post on Instagram, like that photo I showed of Uzcategui and Caleb Plant. You said that's from your personal selection, one of the ones that you like. Do these things show up on other people's Instagrams? Like, I know that you're a professional photographer. Obviously, you get paid to take photos of these fights and stuff like that. Do you find that people pinch your photos, for lack of a better term, and use them for their sites or for their Instagram pages or whatever the case is?
Actually, yeah, but for me right now, since I'm not at that caliber yet, or at least I don't feel like I'm at that caliber yet, I don't say anything, because it's just more publicity for me. Because people see my stuff.
So they credit you, or
some people do. The majority of people do.
okay,
Some people don't. But I people still see it and they know that it's mine. That's one thing that I love about my photos.
distinct.
It's distinct, that people see my work, and they'll actually DM me and say, "Hey, is this your shot?"
Yeah,
And I'm like, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, it is." And they're like, "I knew it." You know what I mean? Because I guess I have like that little niche, or you know, that little thing about my photos that people see and they're like, "Oh, that's Luis," you know.
okay.
So
So right now you don't take it personally; you just let it ride.
to me, that's more of a compliment, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially
Sure.
because I'm not scared. Because you know what I mean. Like I believe in my passion, so I know there's enough work for everybody who's willing to work for it, and my hard work's gonna speak for itself. So I don't worry about it. You know, people think that I get worried about it. I actually show people what I know. You know, if they need it, if I, you know, so I have no problem.
You'll help me understand how to take photos after this if I ask a few questions. I could use the help for sure.
yeah, I have no problem. I actually right before I came in, I had sent a message to one of my buddies. His name is Cumbia. I don't know if you know who Cumbia is.
No, I don't think so.
He shoots for Robert Garcia.
Okay, and then I've probably seen. I may not know the name, but I've probably seen the photograph.
Yeah, he shoots for like Lindolfo Garcia.
Okay.
Gonzalez, I believe it is. Like Ruben Rodriguez, and I remember him distinctively because I remember when I first started back in a long time ago, about a year and a half ago, whatever it is. I shot with him at Fantasy Springs.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't even know who he was at the time, you know. But I was shooting my shots, and my shots were coming out fairly clear, nice, clear color, you know. And I noticed his shots were a little bit off on the color, and I told him, hey, maybe, you know, change your white balance a little bit, you know, that way you get a little bit clearer, that way you don't have to edit as much.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, all right, cool, thank you. So he started changing. He's like, oh man, that worked, you know, thank you. So, you know, that was my way of like you create that camaraderie, I guess.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Connection.
Yeah.
And that's someone who will be a reputable, you know, sort of resource later. Someone will give you referrals and those types of things.
Yeah, stuff like that, you know. And I, like me, I love building, man. I love building. I love meeting people. I love making connections with people, networking, you know, helping people out, and just enjoy myself, you know.
Are there any upcoming fights or events that you plan to shoot or that you would like to shoot, that you would like to be involved in?
My buddy Jose Cepeda is going to be fighting in February.
For a title, right?
Yeah, for a title.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're you know, I'm basically shooting for him. Like he's my buddy. You know, I always shoot his trainings and stuff. And I'm hoping for that upset. You know.
Yeah.
And I mean I think he'll take it, man. I've seen his training, and he's on it, man. He's really on it. He's came a long way from what he was training. You know, the way he was training. You know, he's fast, man. He's getting fast. He has more power. You know, and it's a good thing to see, man. Like you enjoy it, because then you're like, it's not just, oh, I'm gonna go take a photo of this person. Like now you have a connection to that person, and you're like, oh man, like you've seen where he was and you've seen where he is now, and you're able to capture that and everything in between.
You've got a few connections. So do you train with Andy Aguilar?
Train with him? No.
No.
He's part of. We're basically like a. How can I say? He's
just affiliated.
He's like he's my teammate.
Okay.
He's my teammate. I guess how could I explain it?
But in terms of connections, though, so people who he works with, people like Jaime Munguia, Leo Santa Cruz, and stuff like that, you get an opportunity to see them train, as an example?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so me. It's basically right now, like, it's been me, Andy, and my friend Mark.
Okay.
And we've basically supported each other at the train, you know, where we train at the gym, and we basically help each other out. Andy provides the strength and conditioning, and we support him with photography, any kind of videography we have, you know, that I get, videos I make, and it's all, he's tagged. We're like our own support system, you know.
So yeah, so you got to see, for instance, Munguia in preparation for this fight that he had last night.
Right.
Yeah. So did you watch the fight?
Oh yeah, I watched the fight.
You watched the fight. What did you think of that fight?
I was surprised.
I was surprised too.
I think I was more surprised at Inoue, because he was able to take such a hard punch, because I know he freaking punches like a damn mule. You know what I mean? So that was really surprising for me. But at the same time, I understood Inoue, because there was no way he was going to stand in front of him.
Yeah.
So his only way out was to push the fight forward and to kind of smother him. And you pretty much take away his power by smothering him. So, yeah, my hat's off to Inoue. And, you know, I know Jaime was knowing that Jaime, now that I've known him for a while, I know his mentality, and I know he probably didn't care, because he probably didn't face him.
Okay.
He was just like, you know what, I was even telling, like, my friends, I was like, he's using it as ring experience.
Yeah.
Because
he's also young. He's 22.
He's 22.
Yeah.
So I saw it as he's getting those those rounds under his belt. Because if you notice, some certain fighters that have not gone past 3 rounds, when they get to the 7th, 8th round, they're done.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So in my eyes, I saw it as, you know what, maybe he's taking in these rounds to condition himself more psychologically and physically.
Pablo Cesar Santos and Christina Castle jumped on the chat to say what's up. What's up, guys?
What's up, Cumbia? What's up, Christina?
What's going on, guys? So I was surprised by a number of things in that, too. I think the shots that Munguia was putting on his body, those body shots, which were pretty much constant, they were throughout. I think I was less surprised that he was able to take the headshots than I was that he was able to sustain the level of pressure that he was applying to Munguia throughout the fight.
Definitely.
While taking those impacts to the body. It's something where if in the first 5-6 rounds, I would have said that, yeah, he can sustain that level of pressure. He can take those shots. But starting around round 8, he's going to be in a lot of trouble because he will have taken that kind of damage down low. He's been investing in the body. Munguia has been investing in the body. And that investment didn't really pay out in the sense that you didn't see Inoue slow down, which is so peculiar, right? And I even think that the pressure that he was applying was a little unexpected to me. So you saw Munguia fight a lot and have to use a lot of sort of footwork and backpedaling and things like that. It was constant pressure throughout, and I think the level of punishment he took but continued to apply that pressure is peculiar. Like I almost like... It's almost like he's a Terminator. Not that I think he won the fight, you know? Like, I think he pretty decisively lost most of those rounds because of the effectiveness of Munguia's punches. But it's almost like watching a Rocky movie or Fight Night. Did you ever play Fight Night back in the day?
Yeah.
Like, it's like watching a video game. Exactly. You're just sitting, just slamming buttons and landing everywhere. There's like huge power shots landing everywhere.
And see, to the casual fan, a casual fan is going to talk crap. They're going to be like, oh, Munguia this, Munguia that, you know, but they don't realize everything that goes on in behind the scenes, you know what I mean? It could have been an ugly weight cut. It could have been...
Sure, that's what they implied. The DAZN commentator said that he struggled with the 154, and I think afterwards they had asked him, do you intend to stay at 154 or go up to 160, for instance, challenging Demetrius Andrade as an example.
Right.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he's a big boy, so, he's, what, 6 foot, 6'1"? So I mean, he's a big boy. So
he's a big dude for sure. And like we said, he's only 22. I can still remember. I remember one of the first fights I saw Canelo participate in the United States was against Jose Miguel Cotto. So Miguel Cotto's brother.
Cotto. Yeah, he popped him really good.
And he almost got him. He almost put him out. And like the idea that Jose Miguel Cotto could stop Canelo is almost, now you think about it and you're like, no way. But when he was a young man and was, still coming up and getting some of that experience and some of that ring rust and or some of those learnings, he was caught and almost put
him out. And I saw that fight and I was like, whoa, like,
yeah, you remember that?
He caught him. He caught him really good and he stumbled and
he
landed on them ropes and I was like, no way, But and I think that like it's boxing, so it's you got a fighter's choice or chance, Like
exactly.
You land that perfect punch, it don't matter. It don't matter how strong you are, how big you are. It don't matter. If it catches you on the button, you're done.
Yeah, I think that the fight before that actually, and I know you mentioned that you didn't get to see some of those undercard bouts, but Zhu Shan, who was a Chinese competitor, and this fight was another one of those type of fight night affairs where you just look and these guys are just throwing full-blown power shots for 12 rounds for the WBA regular title against Jesus Rojas.
Right.
And at the end of it, you're just like, what did I just see? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure what that was. It was so entertaining.
Right,
you know what I mean? But and I think Munguia's fight was in the same vein. It was entertaining, and there will be, I agree, there's definitely going to be naysayers. There's going to be people who look at that fight and go, oh, he was exposed or whatever the case is.
I would admit it. I was worried because I was like,
I could see that.
He's hitting him with damn baseball bats, and the guy's still coming forward,
Yeah.
And he was
landing shots too. To be fair,
exactly. Yeah. He was coming over the top. When they were on the ropes, he was swinging those haymakers, and he was cracking them.
He was getting them with some. Yeah. There were times later, and I would say that both men seemed to handle each other's power well, with the exception of there was one round late in the fight where Munguia, with like 30 seconds left, had a chance to really put him down.
I think that was a 10th.
Yeah, the fact that he didn't go down was crazy.
Boom,
like his knees buckled multiple times and stuff like that. But that was I think that card, especially when you look at the fight before, if you guys have DAZN, you didn't check out the undercard, go ahead and check out the fight before. The score ends up a little wacky. I think the fight before that was Zhu Can. He won like 118 to 109 or something like that. 118, 110, I should say. And you might look at it and go, well, it was a little bit more competitive than that. But but at the same time, it was a very entertaining fight from a fan's perspective. And then you were talking about Robert Garcia earlier. So Robert Garcia had Josesito Lopez fighting Keith Thurman last night as well, PBC.
That was a great fight. I actually, for a moment there, I thought Josesito was going to have enough gas to take him out.
It almost looked like he got him.
Yeah. I mean, I should have scored it. Like, I should have really paid attention to try to score the whole fight. But, I mean, like I said, to the casual fan, Josesito took that fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I can see. I don't necessarily. I'm not on board with the. It was a competitive fight throughout. The majority decision does surprise me. I do think Keith Thurman took it, but at the same time, Josesito had moments, particularly later in that fight, after he was able to really rock Keith Thurman.
Right.
Thurman wasn't quite. He never really seemed to recover until maybe the last round or 2 rounds. So like there was like a 4-round chunk in there where you're like, okay, he's still recovering from that.
Yeah, and he just kept tagging him with that jab, boom, and he kept shooting him back, and he had like no response for it. It was like, man, so.
And so it was a very competitive fight. I thought it was interesting because I had seen a number of videos and stuff like that. I guess Robert Garcia's daughter had like a quinceañera planned, and he originally did not intend to go to Josesito Lopez and to act as chief second. His dad was going to instead, but he showed up anyway, so I guess he skipped the quinceañera.
Yeah, I know, man. That's
a hard one, hard, dude.
Yeah, that's a hard
That's got to be hard. Like, no joke. If I had to skip my daughter's birthday for something, that'd be hard.
Yeah, that when I heard that, I was like, man, that's hard. So
definitely, but close, competitive fight. Keith Thurman. Obviously, there are other welterweights who operate for PBC. Al Heyman, Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, guys who Keith has beat before, but his WBC belt right now, Sean Porter he had to vacate it as a result of the injury. So there's a lot of good welterweight fights that could happen. I don't know that they will, but they could. That's kind of one of the sadder things about boxing right now. You're like, I don't know if that'll happen.
Exactly. That's always the hardest part, because you're like, you see that the majority of people, they're like, oh, we want to see this fight, this person versus this person, and then the promoter says, oh no, we're gonna give you this person versus that one. That's true. It's like, it's like, damn.
Yeah, and I think last week we were here with Erin Tohill, and there were a number of fights that happened. She's fighting this afternoon. You guys make sure to check that out. 360 Tom Loeffler on Facebook and YouTube. But there were a number of fights that I didn't even get to and forgot completely about. And one of those was Demetrius Andrade. So he had a 12th round TKO, and that was an opponent that they talked about potentially for Munguia after his fight. Right. Yeah. So there are fights for him on DAZN as well. You look at it and you say, okay, well, he can go to 160 and fight Demetrius Andrade or any one of these people at 160.
Well, I think just the fact that Munguia has Robert Alcazar is very beneficial, because he's gonna plan it out. He's not just gonna be like, okay, we'll take this fight, we'll take that fight. I mean, they're gonna calculate it, and whatever is the best thing for them, they're going to take.
Yeah, and you can see there's a number of smart fights that took place in there. Like, for instance, you look at, he had the hard fight with Liam Smith.
Right.
Or Caleb Smith. I get the two of them confused. Yeah, so he had the hard fight with Liam Smith. And then after that, he had another fight that was, a fight that's not as tough an opponent as Liam Smith. I would say by most criteria, but that's important coming off of a fight that's like challenging, where you went all 12 rounds and stuff like that. You're also building the confidence. You could see that there's strategic, sort of placement of these opponents, and not in a bad way. I think that's important for young fighters to, you can't just throw them in with anybody in the world. I actually think, in retrospect, you remember he was trying to fight Golovkin. Right. When Golovkin fought Vanes Martirosyan here at StubHub. I forget what it's called. Do you guys remember what StubHub is called now? I don't remember. But I'll always probably call it StubHub. But when he fought Vanes Martirosyan here at StubHub, Munguia was in the attempting to get that fight, and instead he ended up fighting for the Saddam Ali for that 154-pound title, and I feel like that was a really good thing for him. You know what I mean? Like that may have been
that was a blessing
jump
in
too
disguise.
early. Yeah,
it
jumped too early for him to take that fight.
Especially because because Jaime has a lot of power, man.
Yeah,
and I've seen him train, and he has a lot of his conditioning. His conditioning is way above average, man. His conditioning is like, you get fighters whose heart rates go up to 160, 170 when they're training, and they're able to bring it down. Their heart rate comes down between rounds. This guy, it seems like it almost shuts off, where he's literally at rest, at homeostasis, where he's just chill.
Exactly.
And I've never seen that.
Like he's frozen in time.
Yeah, he just
like that.
boom, like he's boom, he's chill. So I understand from his perspective, he was probably like, yeah, I'll take him on. But I think the Saddam Ali fight was a blessing for him, because going 12 rounds with Cotto and then getting completely destroyed by a 21-year-old kid.
Yeah,
I said a lot.
Yeah, I think that was great for him, and I don't expect that he as a fighter wouldn't like the challenge. I think fighters are generally prepared to jump in
with anybody
ahead of their because they can't have the mentality like, no, that guy could really beat me. You know what I mean? Like I think as a fighter, you have to think that you can win, and so sometimes I think it's the job of the manager and some of the other people to make sure that they're bringing someone up.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure we've all seen it where they try to put the chariot before the horse.
Definitely.
And then they get derailed, and it's like, man, why? What happened? Well, you went too fast.
Yeah, people go a little bit too fast.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about the management, or promoters, I should say, not always making the best fights, but one of the things that's really exciting is coming up here, Canelo and Danny Jacobs. So those guys actually are going to get together and mix it up in Cinco de Mayo weekend.
Right.
You think you'll watch that one?
Oh yeah, definitely. I honestly, I would have preferred Daniel Jacobs versus Triple G before this went down.
The rematch with Daniel Jacobs and Triple G.
Yeah, because just like you had Triple G and Canelo 2, 1 and 2. You the first one wasn't decisive enough for anybody. I gave it a draw.
Many people did, yeah. Many people did.
The second one, if you judge by the first fight and you see the second fight, you're gonna automatically. To me, in my eyes, I'm giving it to Canelo because he completely dominated. He completely nonstop coming forward. Doing
in that second fight.
In the second fight, and to me, that's that was decisive for me. So with the Danny Jacobs and Triple G, for me, they needed a second go.
Yeah, and the first fight was a good fight.
Yeah,
a good entertaining fight. I think that it's kind of the Canelo train came along for Triple G right there, and there's no way that he can pass that up at that point. You know what I mean? But I would like to see that again, and I'm excited to see him and Canelo mix it up too.
Yeah,
that'll be cool.
I think that would have gave Triple G more gas because, certain people probably seen the fact that Daniel Jacobs gave him such a tough fight, and so a lot of people gave it to Daniel Jacobs. So in my eyes, now you kind of take away from yourself because you don't go back and fight him and prove it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because it's to me essentially it's the crowd that's paying you, because who's gonna go see your fights? The people, the public. You know what I mean? The promoters, they can pay you, but who's paying everything else? The people.
At the same time, you look at Triple G's, excluding Vanes Martirosyan, where he did what he was sort of expected to do. He's had quite a few hard fights in a row. Like the Canelo fight, that's a hard fight. Even the first one, where I personally think Triple G should have won that fight, maybe like 8-4 in their first fight. But still a difficult fight. Right. And Danny Jacobs, a difficult fight. He's had a lot of fights where at his age and with these opponents where you're like, okay, like 4 of the last 5 fights you've been in, and now you're you're looking at you're taking a beating even in victory. You're taking a beating even in victory. Those miles have got to be, of course, got to be getting to him.
And I think I saw that on the second Canelo fight because he looked beat. He looked. You see his face, man.
True.
People were making memes about it. He looked like he got hit by a truck. So.
Although he did come on in the second half of the fight a little bit, which is surprising because he was getting taking a lot of shots early in that first half of the fight. Priscilla Ortiz jumped on and said, "I see you. I see you, Louis."
I see you.
Thanks, guys, for joining us. I'm here, of course, with Luis Mejia of Luis Mejia Photography. Make sure you follow him on Instagram. Angel said, "Yeah, Triple G won the first fight." I thought he won it pretty, by quite a bit. I thought he won it pretty good. Like I said, 8-4. The second fight I thought was much closer. Like you said, Canelo applying that pressure, and I think I would have been more in the draw camp for that one. But
Right.
I think both of them were difficult fights for Triple G. They both wore on him.
And as funny as it may sound, that first Triple G fight, after the fourth round, I called a draw.
After the fourth round?
After the fourth round.
In the first one?
Yeah. I told
so after 4 rounds, you suspected that it would end.
I already knew, yeah, because my way of thinking was like, okay, you call it a draw. Second fight, you give Canelo the fight, you take his belts. The third fight, you give him back. That's money.
Yeah.
In my eyes, I was like, that's where the money's at. There's no way that they're gonna allow Triple G to take Canelo's anything. Why? Because his team, he's our Triple G's on his way out. Canelo's, but he's a baby.
Yeah, comparatively.
There's no way they're gonna be like, oh, here's all of this, all this fame, all this fortune for you when you only have maybe several years left.
Yeah,
Canelo's
the golden ticket.
He's the golden ticket.
Yeah, the golden ticket for those.
So in my eyes, I was thinking to myself, there's no way they're gonna allow Triple G to win that fight, and there's no way they're gonna allow him to take it because it's not money. It's not the money's not. You know what I mean? It's not there.
Yeah, but there's definitely a lot of fights in that division that'll be great. We got a couple fights coming up here on February 2nd. So top ranked fights. So these will be ESPN or ESPN Plus. I can't keep track.
I think it's
of all
ESPN Plus.
Okay, I was gonna say I can't keep track of all the networks. Like last night, for instance, to watch the undercard, the pre-undercard, so not the last 2 bouts on Fox.
Right.
You had to watch it on FS1, but then you had to switch to Fox to watch the to watch the main event. Yeah. ESPN does that a bunch too. They used to have it where you could watch the undercards on ESPN, then you had to switch to ESPN Plus to watch the main one.
It's like
making me change channels, guys.
Right? It's like UFC. Remember when UFC used to run all the prelims on Spike?
Yeah, exactly.
You got to change it to either a different channel, and it's like, man, really?
Yeah, you got to quit making me change channels to find everything. That's tough. But I forgot where I was even going with that one. But that's what was going on with FS1. Oh yeah, so ESPN Plus. The fights on the 2nd. So we have the rematch between Sergey Kovalev and Eleider Alvarez, and I think on the undercard for that, my pick last year for prospect of the year is Teofimo Lopez.
Right. Yeah, he's definitely.
Yeah. So I should tell you guys, and I'll put it on Instagram and everything like that. Somewhere around here, I have a signed Teofimo Lopez glove, and we got that at Boxing Expo in 2018. I'm gonna do a giveaway for those of you. I'll post it this week. I hope. I'm going to kind of commit to that. I'll kind of commit to that. If I can catch up with Coach. Again, Coach isn't here with me this afternoon because he is acting as chief second for George Navarro on the Tom Loeffler 360 thing. I'm sure he's got the glove. We'll do a giveaway with it, Teofimo Lopez. But excited for that one because that dude's legit. I love watching him, actually. Every time I've watched him, I have not been disappointed. Teofimo Lopez,
right.
I'm referring to. But, yeah, so keep an eye out for that. And then, of course, Kovalev coming off of a knockout loss to Eleider Alvarez.
That's a scary one to watch, man. I'm worried about Kovalev on that one.
You're worried about him?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, anytime a fighter's ever been, gets knocked out, you've seen it in UFC. Look at Chuck Liddell. He got knocked out once, and after that, it was just chain reaction, one after another. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we actually had this talk because Chuck Liddell just had, and I mentioned to you before that I don't follow MMA in the same way that I follow boxing, but Chuck Liddell was on that Golden Boy promoted event that was at the Forum, him and Tito not too long ago, which Tito won, and they have fought several times before. I think 3 times. This was their fourth.
This was
their third or fourth fight, I guess.
I think third.
Their third fight.
I think so. Yeah, Chuck Liddell beat the piss out of him twice before.
Yeah, so their third fight.
Yeah.
And they said Tito got redemption. So Tito was like, I got redemption. Then I looked, and Chuck Liddell hasn't fought in 8 years.
Yeah.
It was his first, and he's almost 50.
Well, they were saying it was almost criminal.
Yeah, that's redemption, bro. You have a 50-year-old man who hasn't fought in 8 years.
I not to be a jerk, but I think they needed money. You know what I mean? And
maybe.
And I think De La Hoya because from the stuff that I've been hearing is they're trying to combine, or they're trying to work together with MMA. Golden Boy's trying to work with MMA, kind of bring it together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And honestly, that was kind of dumb, because
the Golden Boy promoted show.
Not the show in itself, because MMA, I love MMA. MMA to me is it's a little different than boxing, because with MMA, a kick to the face or the head, you can't fake that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it brings a different aspect to combat sports. You know what I mean? But just the fact that they use Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz, me as being an MMA fan, I didn't like that, because it's pointless. They're old.
So what do you think of like the crossovers? So when Mayweather fights McGregor, for instance, as an MMA fan, did you dig that, or were you like, this is silly?
That was the silliest thing ever. Because it's all for money. You know what I mean? I actually walked out with Floyd Mayweather.
You did?
Yeah, for the press conference here in LA.
You walked out with him?
I walked out with him, and I think it was, I don't know if it was planned, but it seemed like it was on accident.
That you walked out with him? It was on
yeah,
accident?
because.
So how did that come about?
Well, we were at the Staples Center, right? And they were, how when they come along the side and they do their interviews with all the media. Well, I was there shooting, and all of a sudden I hear, "Hurry up, we gotta go, let's go," and everybody started pushing. So me being a big dude, I started pushing my way through. I didn't give a crap. I just started pushing my way through, and it was me and my buddy Danny, and we're walking through, and you could either go left or right, and I was like, you know what, screw this, I'm going left. So we both went left, and I didn't realize that Floyd Mayweather was in front of me.
Oh, okay.
He was like 2 or 3 people in front of me, and I'm walking out, and all of a sudden it was only cameramen and media and stuff like that were behind me, and I was like, what the hell? And they're pushing me out into the crowd, like into the as he's walking out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy crap. And I was like, what the hell's going on? So I just, all of a sudden, you walk out and everybody's there. Like, I was like, because I didn't even see him, because I came in through the back.
Okay.
So I walk out. You got freaking hundreds and thousands of people. I don't know how many people that were there, but it was freaking packed.
Yeah, a ton of people, right?
Yeah, and the lights are pointing at us, and I'm walking out, and I'm like, holy shit, I was like, wow. And we walked with him all the way up until he got on stage.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you had to shoot from the stage for that press conference, or was it like, did you get any snapshots of that one? Were you taking photos of that?
Oh, yeah. I got shots of when he had the check for $100 million.
Yeah.
I took a shot of that. I got a shot of him, doing the face-off. I think I got another, and they're on my Instagram. But I got several.
Did you actually watch it? Did you end up watching it, or did you think it was a waste of time?
I don't know. Did I watch it?
The McGregor fight, McGregor and Floyd fight.
I think I did watch it, but I didn't pay for it, because I wasn't about to pay for it. I was like, nah.
Whoa, dude, that's a rad photo. Let me share this one. I was just scrolling through your Instagram because I was trying to find the Floyd and McGregor fights. I came across this one right here. That one's pretty dope.
Thanks.
With the sweat flying.
Right. I always love those shots, man. Those, it could be 2 rats punching each other like that, and people just the sweat alone. People are like, oh man, that's awesome. I love that.
The sweat does make it makes it look a little bit cooler when you get the sweat flying on, even if it's water or whatever the case is.
Yeah, it's awesome. Man.
So
I love that.
dope. You take photos of a lot of stuff, dude. Like as I'm going through, your Instagram, like, did you snap this photo?
Yeah, and actually ABC7 used my photo.
ABC7 used this photo?
Yeah, they used that photo for.
Look, I'll share. This is not a boxing photo, but it's like you take a bunch of different photos.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's my passion. I love shooting in general.
You look like Bane in your profile picture, by the way. Is that like is that like an intentional thing? Are you wearing a mask in that, or is that just me?
Yeah.
You are. Okay.
I was Bane for Halloween.
You were Bane for Halloween?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was kind of intimidating when I first started following you on Instagram. Check that out. That's a good one too.
That's a Sinisa right there.
Oh, nice. Sinisa was on the show.
Yeah, I seen that.
Yeah, Sinisa was on here. That's a badass picture.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I have more. I have probably like another 6-7 shots of her cracking her like that.
Well, I imagine that for every one shot that we see, you probably have like 500 shots of it or something like that.
Yeah, I have. I would say just in my phone alone, I probably have 30 to 40,000 photos.
Yeah, and of that, you go through and pick just a handful that actually get posted and stuff like that, right?
And then I just keep them in my archive and just whenever I feel like it. Like that's the other thing I was gonna tell you is, you know how, cause me, Andy, and Mark we're like the LA kind of little like a team, you know, cause of his training, you know, the strength and conditioning.
Yeah.
We just acquired Danny Benavides.
Yeah.
And I was looking through all my photos, and I had shots of David Benavides.
You had shots of him?
Yeah, I had shots of him, but they never got put out because I at that time I wasn't really media, you know what I mean? So the shots that I took, I went and looked for them, I grabbed them, I edited them, and I sent them to him. And I, you know, I told him, I go, I don't know if you ever received these, but, you know, I had these in my archive, you know, and I remember seeing them. And I threw a little edit on them, sent them over to him, and he was like, "Oh, thank you, man." And I was like, "Oh yeah, no worries." You know, I didn't know if you ever received any of these photos, because I turn them into whoever I turn them in, and it's up to them whether either they post them,
they use them or don't. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And he's like, "Yeah, no, man." He's like, nobody ever gave me any of the photos I didn't have any for that fight. He said, the photos that I got were from Google.
Oh, funny.
And I was like, man, that sucks. You know, 'cause
Yeah.
I've been hearing that lately that the fighters, they don't get their photos, or some even have to pay for them.
Have to pay for their own photos?
Yeah, they have like.
That's a bummer, man.
Yeah, people.
Who's making you pay for your own photos? That's crazy.
Yeah, some of the photographers they sell them their photos.
Oh, okay. The
Yeah.
photographers are charging. Okay, I guess they gotta get paid too. You guys gotta get
Right.
paid.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean,
You know what I mean?
honestly,
Like-
I mean, for me in general, I put a lot of passion into my photography. So, you know, it's always a pleasure to when people can give you that credit to say, oh, you know what, here's some money, or, you know, for your hard work. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's, you know what I mean? Like, speaking of, you know, Angel was saying earlier, you know how you say Triple G one.
Yeah.
Angel's been one of the persons that has kind of helped me, kind of, I guess, grow myself, grow my photography and stuff, because he runs 29 Management, and he's been flying me out to like Mexico to shoot some fights, to shoot the boxing gym and all that stuff. So he's been really supportive of my work. I've been supportive of him. You know, anything he needs. You know, I'll do photos. You know, any kind of video that I have, or, you know, stuff like that. Any kind of events or media, anything that I can help with. Like we all help each other out. We're a team. You know.
Yeah, a close-knit community and
Yeah.
stuff like that. That's awesome. And for those of you who are listening on the non-visual mediums such as iTunes, Google Play Music, what I've been doing is sharing some of these photos from El Mejia Photography. So at El Mejia Photography on Instagram. So that's where all these ones are. I didn't get to Connor's, but it's because you have so many photos on here that I probably would have to scroll down for ages to actually get to those ones. But you didn't watch the fight, so it's okay. No.
Right. No, I did. I think I did. I just.
You just didn't pay for it.
Yeah, I didn't pay for it. There you go.
Did you watch Mayweather fight the kickboxer guy?
That one I didn't. I felt so bad, dude. I'm like, dude, it's to me that was kind of more of like, I'm gonna laugh at you and make money. You know what I mean?
It was, yeah. It was.
The guy was crying. He was
The
like,
poor guy was crying for like
Yeah.
10 minutes.
I'm
Yeah, he wasn't just like kind of crying. He was crying
Yeah,
hard for
bawling.
like 10 minutes.
Yeah, I was like,
Poor
man,
dude.
really? Yeah.
Yeah, all because I think it's basically because he landed one clean shot on
Yeah.
Floyd, and after that, Floyd had enough of it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's too bad. But yeah, definitely. I think that some of the shots and things that you go through and you have here. Do you ever shoot events? Are you always on the job when you shoot an event? Like, you know where those photos are going already, or do you just go and take pictures sometimes and then hope people, you know, reach out to you for specific?
Well,
photos and things like
anytime I go to a boxing event, it's either on behalf of Supreme Boxing
Okay.
or either TGB or PBC.
TGB or PBC.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you work with Brittany.
Brittany
You
and
work
Lisa.
at-
I
yeah.
work with Lisa. Yeah.
Yeah. You work with Anthony Saldana. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Stacks.
Yeah.
Sorry
Stacks.
to hear that. I work with him too. Man. No, I'm
Nice. He's
just-
cool. Yeah.
I'm just messing with you, Stacks. Just messing with you. But cool, man. There's a lot of upcoming fights in the month of February. We talked about a couple of them, but there are a few of them here, actually, that are going to be taking place at StubHub
Fresno.
and Microsoft Theater.
Mhm.
Fresno, yeah. So we've got Leo Santa Cruz, who
Right.
you're familiar with, of
Right.
course. Leo Santa Cruz, who does some training with Andy Aguilar for strength and conditioning. So he's fighting at Microsoft Theater here on the 16th, I believe,
Right.
of February. And, of course, Abner Mares and Tank Davis at StubHub Center on the 9th, I believe that is.
But 9th.
Yeah, the 9th of February, so the week prior. And that same day, DAZN and Golden Boy have a show in Indio, Fantasy Springs.
Mm-hmm.
You thinking of watching any of those fights?
I actually might be at one of those.
Oh, really? They're all local.
Right, yeah. Well, I recently got introduced to Antonio Diaz.
Oh, okay.
By my buddy Martin Castillo.
Yeah.
You guys probably check out his stuff online. It's called King of the Castle as well. He has a clothing line, so we went out to show support for the fighters. I'm
familiar with that. Yeah, yeah. Like it has the
KK and then the
yeah,
crown.
Exactly, and it makes the crown.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's actually been a big part of my success as well as Angel, Martin, just like the group. And I don't know if people who see my Instagram, they'll see the people that I've been around. They've actually contributed a lot. But me and Martin, we went out to Joel's to their gym, and he introduced me to Joel Antonio, and they like my work. I took my portfolio, I took my photos, and they really like my work, and they said that they're willing to bring me on board as a photographer for their boxers. So I'm hoping I gotta get in contact with them and see who's my first one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so I might see you at one or more of those events. Right. Yeah, exactly. I might see you around. I occasionally get the benefit of participating as a press participant in some of those events, and I hope to be at one or two of those, as well as have some future guests from that stable and stuff like that as well. So it should be cool. Looking forward to those ones. And
also, we on February 23rd, we're gonna have our fighter Christina Castle. Fighting in Tijuana.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's gonna be fighting in TJ.
Christina Castle, who of course was part of Beat the Count.
Right. 2 episodes or
2 episodes ago. So, yeah. With Andy Aguilar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's on February 23rd.
February 23rd. Yeah.
Is there somewhere we can see that?
I still have to find out because I'm not familiar with the venue.
Okay.
But we have.
Can I hit you up? You'll video it, right? No, I'm just
I'll go live.
I was gonna say, go live on it.
It's funny because I've actually done that, and I've done it on accident. I didn't realize that you couldn't do that, but I put, yeah.
You were live streaming like some PBC event on Instagram or what?
No, I can't remember what I don't know if it was for Golden Boy or who it was for, but I put my phone and I put it on live and I just put it out in the corner, and I was able to see the whole fight, But then I got messages and they're like, hey, you can't do that. And I was like, oh, crap. Like, I didn't know.
Wow.
I was new, so I didn't really know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So here I am going live. They're like, thank you, but you can't do that.
Yeah. Golden Boy has the straight on their website, like the code of conduct. Like, these are things you can't do. You can't take a selfie.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can't drink, obviously, if you're in the media section. You can't cheer. You know what I mean? You can't do
right. You can't. Exactly.
You can't root for anyone, right?
Right.
So it's always kind of a trip to get to participate in those because there are times where you want to stand up and be like, "All right,
yeah, get him, yeah." You get a little excited.
Yeah, but you can't do that. You have to keep your cool and stuff like that.
Right.
But no, that's totally cool. So you live streamed one on Instagram. I did my first Instagram live yesterday. So I was telling you I'm like an Instagram novice.
Right.
And like people add me to their stories and stuff, and I'm always like Christina and Andy. In particular, they were like doing all this, adding stuff to their stories and doing stuff like that. So they're like adding it, and it would show up like, "Hey, do you want to add this to your story too?" And yeah,
right, I mean? Yeah.
So yesterday I was at the weigh-in. So last week we had Erin Tohill here, and she was weighing in for the fight today, actually, which I plugged a few times. And I was at the weigh-in, was like, I'm gonna try this live video thing. It was my first attempt.
Right.
My first attempt at it.
And right now that you mentioned Erin, her strength and conditioning coach is a fellow mentor of Andy Aguilar.
Oh, really?
So that, to me, that's going to be a very interesting fight.
Yeah,
because
I look forward to it very much. Actually.
Yeah. So from what I've been seeing, I believe she hasn't fought in 2 years.
Way more than that. Yeah,
2 or 4 years.
In a boxing ring, it's been over 8 years. She's done some MMA stuff since then, but even the MMA is up there in terms of years. But in a boxing ring, she hasn't fought in like 8 years, over 8 years.
Wow.
That's what I said.
But either way, you know what I mean, based on just the training alone, knowing Andy and the way he trains, I mean, it's scientific, man. He's all about testing everything that's testable. He does, you know what I mean? So just that alone, having that knowledge and that background, I mean, look at Jaime, man. Jaime, when Jaime came in, I think Andy only had 2 or 3 weeks with him. Big night and day.
Yeah, I agree.
You know?
Like I've had a number of strength and conditioning coaches on the show, and you can tell there are certain people who feel passionately about strength and conditioning in the same way that you feel passionately about photography.
Right.
And it is evident when you speak to them about the subject. It's almost like talking to a scientist or something.
Right, exactly.
You're like, what?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And that's what like, you know, I have a couple things in the works, and as well as for the team, for all of us, where I want to bring that value back, because, you know, that's why I reached out to you about bringing Andy and Christina here.
Yeah.
Because if you saw what I saw when I see Andy do what he does, it's a no-brainer, man.
Yeah.
The guy, yeah.
Dude, and by the way, I truly appreciate your connecting me with Andy and Christina. That was I learned a ton from that show, actually.
Yeah.
Like I went, and one of the first things I asked Andy, the funny thing is and we made a short video out of this that people liked a lot, which was I had just seen a video of someone talking about knuckle conditioning, and he walked in and I was like, let me ask you about this. Mm-hmm. And he was like, okay, let me explain. And he went on to describe sort of the structure of human bones, the principle of Wolff's Law and what that meant. And I knew instantly, like, oh, this is going to be like an educational affair right here. Like, I'm going to learn, learn a grip of stuff.
Pull out your notepad.
Yeah, exactly. I did. And you can see I retained some of it too, in the sense that, like, I recall what he was saying in terms of honeycomb structure and stuff like that. If you guys haven't checked out that video, that one's on YouTube. And particularly if you're into MMA and you're wondering about knuckle conditioning and stuff like that, which is something that, you know, I was wondering about based on other videos and things like that I saw. It was just so educational, dude.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, so I really appreciate your hooking me up with those guys.
Yeah, no worries. You know, yeah. It's always a pleasure, because even for me, like, it allows me to step up my game, because I know how much time, energy, like, focus that it takes, you know what I mean, to do what he does. Because he doesn't, people think that, oh, he's just a coach, oh, he's just a trainer. It's nothing like that, man. This guy is on a whole another level, you know what I mean. So I wanted to bring that out to light, because he deserves it, and you know what I mean. He how could I say it? Things need to change in boxing, I think, because nobody ever sees the behind the scenes. I was just talking to a buddy of mine earlier, Rigo from Fino Boxing.
Yeah.
You know, I was telling him, you know, people don't appreciate media and trainers where had it not been for the trainer or the media, you're not gonna know who this fighter is. This fighter is nobody. Yeah, you can be a boxer all day, but if you don't have the conditioning or the strength, how long is this fighter gonna last? If you don't have the media and the photography, nobody's ever gonna remember, because they're not gonna be able to see this person. You know what I'm saying?
There's a lot of building a fighter that is done by professionals, like outside of you know, outside of the ring, I guess is what I should say.
Right. And that's why they have press conferences, media workout. Yeah. Because they need, the promoters need the media to get this person out there and get him known, because if not, nobody's going to buy nothing. You know what I mean? You know, TV providers or you know, like the television, the stations and all that, they're going to be like, why are we going to support this guy? We don't even know who he is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
So, in my eyes, I kind of want to change that around, because without us, you don't have them.
I think there's more and more of that now too, because of the demand for shows in boxing. So you look at Top Rank, for instance, in their contract with ESPN, they're basically having to do a show every week. Mm-hmm. You look at DAZN and their contract with Matchroom Boxing and Golden Boy, they're basically having to do a show every week. And you're going from a place where sometimes there'd be a couple shows per month that featured fighters that you knew of, and now you have these entities that are literally putting on multiple shows every week. There's a top ranked show and a DAZN show, and you have to figure out how you're gonna. If you're me, and you really want to keep up on it, you have to figure out how is all that going to fit into the day. And they're starting it at random times of day. There's like shows at 4 on Friday now, and you're like, okay, I have to figure out sort of how to get to all that. But what that means is that there's a lot more opportunity for young fighters who wouldn't have had exposure before.
Yeah.
Because they have to do shows every week, you have to build new names and new fighters and people to carry those shows.
Yeah.
And you're in competition with a number of local promoters, particularly, and I'm sure it's like this in other areas, but in Los Angeles, the local promoters all do their live streams. You know what I mean? You could check out their shows on Facebook. They're on the same days. You know what I mean? They're on the Fridays, the Saturdays, Sundays. You have to check them out on Facebook and YouTube and stuff like that. But a lot of them have good matchmaking, good fights. Aaron's fight, for instance, which will be on today. And you look at it and you're like, there's so much to keep up with, and the media is going to have to make new stars. And obviously the boxers have something to do with it too. They have to win, right? Like at the end of the day, outside of people who have established themselves in other ways, like Adrian Broner, I know he hasn't had the greatest record in his last 6-7 fights. Kind of established himself up before that, but we have to build new star power and new talent to draw people to the demand, because there's so many shows now. It's like,
or even existing ones. Yeah. I mean, we just acquired also, I don't know if you know who Right Hook Roxy is.
Yes. I actually, I was checking out the Instagram and stuff like that. So it's number 1 ranked in the world, right? Yeah. Not just in the nation, but in the world.
Right. And what I was like, my focus, I guess, without a dollar sign on my head, like, you know what I mean? Without that in my head, I talked to Andy and Mark, and we talk amongst each other regarding helping these people, these individuals, become somebody if they're not already. You know what I mean? With like, for example, with Panchito, when Panchito came in, Panchito had no media. He had no media. His Instagram was low, and he didn't have that. You know what I mean? And I didn't even know who he was.
Yeah.
And he was fighting Iron Boy in Arizona and all that. He had a great story behind him. I didn't know about it. So my thing from that point, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do whatever I can to try to build him up. And I use different avenues. I use it's like Supreme Boxing. I had them kind of, I guess, help me out in a sense. We work together. Like I started going to different like gyms and stuff like that. Kind of show the training, kind of show the person. And it ended up where Jaime Munguia and Panchito were training together. I did a little video on them. I did some photos with them. So it also helped them. It helped Supreme in a sense because I had Munguia, and Panchito was there with him together, so they both shined.
Yeah.
So it allowed to bring the value of the fighter. You know what I mean? So that's been my kind of my goal with my photography is to basically, it's like when you get a turnkey house.
Yeah.
You have either a fixer-upper or you have a turnkey house. My objective was to get me, Mark, Andy, for us to be together, work together as a team, and bring in, Angel and Carlos with South Central Boxing, and to basically create that one turnkey fighter.
Yeah.
If you have a fighter that has his following, his media, his clothing, his management, and his strength and conditioning coach, you bring that to a promoter, they're gonna be like, where do I sign?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, that's been my goal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to bring everybody with us, like, you know what I mean? Like, everybody wins,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I was actually looking at, you talk about Roxy, for instance, Right Hook Roxy. It's Right Hook Roxy.
Right Hook Roxy,
yeah.
Yes.
I was looking at the short sort of YouTube biography. She has an interesting story as well.
Right.
Right. So being trained from a young age, number 1 in the nation, number 1 in the world, was trained by her mother. It sounds like at one point.
Right.
And so I think every fighter sort of has some background or some, so you could tell like everybody has something interesting in the way that they got involved in boxing. They're just stories that need to be told now because we kind of have to, as an audience, we need to become invested in more fighters so that we keep watching these shows
not only
every
that,
week.
but you're able to build relationships in a sense with the fighter without even having to know him. say for example, Caleb Plant and Uzcategui, they both lost a daughter.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of people didn't realize that, and they didn't know that. But then once they heard and like they read or they saw the stories, you begin to open up a whole different side of yourself.
You can relate in different ways.
Yes.
Yeah, you can relate in different ways.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that is actually a component that will become bigger given the number of fighters that we have to be invested in order to sustain the number of shows that contractually have to take place, like over the next year, 2 years, things like that.
And that's what, like I said, that's where the media comes in. That's where the photography comes in, because without us, you really don't have much. You know what I mean? It's like having an action figure. Yeah. What does he do?
Yeah, and we've talked a number of times on this show even about the importance of, for a young fighter, sort of that marketing or draw element,
right?
Which is that it seems to me that for young fighters, a lot of time, winning isn't always enough. Like, you have to sell tickets.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Seats. You have to fill seats.
Yeah, you have to fill seats. You have to sell tickets. Otherwise, you're not even putting yourself in a position where you can get sort of the right stepping stones for you to progress in your career. If you're not selling tickets, I would assert that you have to actually fight more difficult fights because because
you become a club fighter.
Yeah, you have to fight more difficult fights rather than go through that sort of natural progression that you'd like for a young and talented fighter to go through. And depending on your amateur background or pedigree, it might be okay to jump in with some more experienced sort of veterans or take an opponent type role. But for a lot of people, they don't have that depth of amateur background and stuff like that. Roxy, though, obviously has a ton of experience at the amateur level. So as long as Olympics actually take place in 2020, if AIBA and IOC can come to whatever agreement they need to come to in order for, not the Olympics, but for boxing as an Olympic sport, I mean. But yeah, that sounds definitely a promising trajectory. That's a cool story. I hope to get to tell it on here someday.
Right.
That'd be awesome.
That would definitely be awesome.
Yeah. Well, I think before we sign off, I want to give you an opportunity. I know I've mentioned the Instagram a few times, but is that the best place to follow you? Is that where we should find you? El Mejia Photography and stuff like that?
El Mejia Photography.
At El Mejia Photography on Instagram. A lot of cool stuff on there. Anything else that you want to plug or mention before we go?
Our fighter, Christina Castle, she'll be fighting February 23rd in Mexico. It's to me, it's Tijuana. People call it Mexico. Like Mexico, I don't consider TJ like Mexico, but Christina Castle fighting February 23rd. Don't forget to catch the Cepeda versus Ramirez fight.
Yeah, Cepeda versus Ramirez.
I'm looking for an upset on that.
Yeah.
You can follow all of us at UFC Jim Rosemead. We're all there all the time. Monday. It's usually Monday. Andy's there all week.
Okay.
Literally all week. But me and my buddy Mark helps with like live live feeds for Andy for 29 Management, or he does some of the a lot of the photography when I'm not there. Him and Andy are there. He's there with Andy Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, because that's when we have David Benavides, Leo Santa Cruz, Chon Cepeda, and Panchito. They're training those days. Other than that, I try to be there as much as I can, but I'm all over the place.
I could see, man.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. Also, and everybody, they can follow what we're doing also on the 29 Management side, at 29 Management LLC at Instagram. We also have a supporting clothing line for the group, which is South Central Boxing.
Okay.
What else? What else I got?
How do you manage all this?
Oh, it's a lot,
crazy.
Man.
I just have beat the count stuff, and it takes way too much time.
No, trust me, I know. I'm from the moment I wake up to the when I go to sleep, I have my phone in my hand. I'm sending either messages or whatever, like anything that I can. Also, I
feel bad I message you so much now. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Trust me, I'm on it. Yeah. But I want to thank like Steve Oliveros. He's helping us with Christina's her outfit for the fight.
Cool.
another. If you guys want a dope haircut, his Instagram is at Mo Money.
At Mo Money.
It's,
How did he get that Instagram? That's a.
Well, his name is Moses.
Yeah, but no, I mean like
Yeah.
you would think that's a name that's like taken.
Well,
like,
it's because it's like underscore M and then
okay, I got
zero.
you.
Yeah. Or anybody can go to the Upgrade Barbershop. They're awesome barbers there. Just and everybody who's helped me get to where I'm at. You know, Idris Urbo is one of the people that I really look up to. Chris Farina. You know, and Supreme Boxing, Nancy, Anthony Stack, Saldana, David Saldivar, Cynthia, Under the Hand Wraps, he's helped me out too. You know,
Yeah.
Albert Baker, Lena, just the Supreme Boxing team. You know, Ray, and just I mean I can go on forever.
Yeah,
you know,
you're like
just-
going. This is like the Academy Awards almost.
right? Yeah. You know, because like I never forget, man. I don't like to forget the people who've helped me get where I'm at. You know what I mean? I've always been that humble person where I appreciate everybody's help. You know, so my friend Erica, she's always been really really supportive in whatever I do. She's always backed me up 100%. The Priscilla, the one that came online earlier as well.
Yeah,
Just everybody that supports me. I always appreciate it.
Definitely.
100%.
definitely. I appreciate you guys all jumping on the live chat and everything that he mentioned as well. You can follow me at Beat the Count on Facebook, Instagram. The show obviously is on YouTube where we are now, as well as iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, Podbean. I don't even remember them all. Tune in.
Right. And I got some
Whatever
stuff in
you
the
need
works
to.
too. I got some stuff in the as a team we got some stuff in the works too for this coming year. So
Cool.
we're looking to hit the top.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. I appreciate you walking us through your experience and stuff like that, talking about the fights.
Thank you for having me.
And I will be back with you guys next week on Sunday. See you then.
See you guys later.
Peace.